Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Wherever this video finds you, welcome to Tix. I know for those of you watching live, I am a little late. Things here, house that are beyond my control. So I got to do what I got to do, but everything's fine. Anyway, let's hop right into it. Let's not waste any time. We got some videos to get into, so let's go.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for coming today. I apologize for the delay. I was once again with the president. He and I were both reviewing the newly released surveillance footage from FBI in the Savannah Guthrie case and just this heartbreaking situation with respect to her mother. The president encourages any American across the country with any knowledge of this suspect to please call the FBI, who continue to assist state and local authorities who are leading this investigation on the ground. And once again, I will reiterate that the prayers of this entire White House are with Savannah and her family at this time. And we hope this person is found soon and that her mother is brought home safely. President Trump has a very busy week ahead, so I will begin with some scheduling announcements today. Tomorrow here at the White House, the president will host Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu for a bilateral meeting. The remainder of the week will be focused on energy and deregulation. Tomorrow afternoon, the president will hold an event in the East Room to tout clean, beautiful coal as America's most reliable and affordable energy source, especially during periods of peak demand, just as we saw during this most recent winter storm, which impacted hundreds of millions of Americans. The president will discuss how clean, beautiful coal is not only keeping the lights on in our country, but also driving down the cost of electricity across the country as well. Additionally, on Thursday, President Trump will be joined by Administrator Lee Zeldin to formalize the rescission of the 2009 Obama-era endangerment finding. This will be the largest deregulatory action in American history, and it will save the American people $1.3 trillion in crushing regulations. The bulk of the savings will stem from reduced costs for new vehicles, with the EPA projecting average per vehicle savings of more than $2,400 for popular light-duty cars, SUVs, and trucks. This is just one more way this administration is working to make life more affordable for everyday Americans. Overall, these groundbreaking actions from President Trump will drive larger economic growth, create thousands of good-paying jobs, expand manufacturing, increase consumer choice, and improve affordability for millions of families and businesses. Finally, on Friday, President Trump and First Lady Melania Trump will travel to Fort Bragg in the great state of North Carolina to meet with military families and the heroic members of our special forces who carried out the successful Operation Absolute Resolve in Venezuela and helped bring narco-terrorist Nicolas Maduro to justice. I know the President and First Lady are both greatly looking forward to this visit. Also, the First Lady will celebrate Valentine's Day at the Children's Inn at the National Institute of Health tomorrow, with children, families, and NIH staff involved in clinical trials. In other news this week, thanks to President Trump signing the largest middle-class tax cut in history, this is shaping up to be the biggest tax refund season ever, and we are in it now. President Trump and Republicans fundamentally believe that Americans deserve to keep more of their hard-earned money, not less, which is why he fought so hard to deliver this long overdue relief. From no tax on tips, overtime, or Social Security to auto loan interest deductions on new American-made vehicles, plus increases to the standard deduction in child tax credit, more money is flowing back into the pockets of hardworking Americans. We're already hearing from everyday Americans across the country who are reporting substantial tax savings thanks to the Working Families Tax Cut, which every single Democrat in Congress voted against. AMAC, which represents millions of Americans, has heard directly from more than their 1,000 members already about how the Trump tax cuts are easing cost of living concerns. I wanted to share a few of those powerful responses with you today. This one comes from Dean and Wendy in Wisconsin, who said, quote, "Instead of paying out $3,700 last year, we got back $2,500 in refunds this year. This is huge for our family." Steve from California said, Quote, "The new senior citizen deduction is a tremendous relief and has given us peace of mind and the freedom to truly enjoy the retirement years we worked so hard for." Eric from Nevada said, "As a senior, no tax on Social Security helps me tremendously. The no tax on tips helps my daughter-in-law as a waitress. The no tax on overtime helps my son, who works constantly. Our family savings from the One Big Beautiful Bill could total even more than $5,000. We love the Trump tax cuts." These are just a few positive examples of the everyday Americans that President Trump's tax cuts are uplifting. We'd love to hear more from the American people across the country who are benefiting from the working families' tax cuts. The White House is also pleased to share that parents across the country can now officially apply to open a Trump account for their child. In order to apply, parents can visit trumpaccounts.gov and fill out the IRS form 4547. These Trump accounts are special investment accounts aimed at providing American children with a jump start on building wealth for life. They have all the tax advantages as a traditional IRA account, but are specifically tailored to build wealth the moment a child is born. Thanks to President Trump, every child born between January 1st, 2025 and December 31st, 2028 is eligible to receive $1,000 from the U.S. Treasury to fund their account. Parents, guardians, and even nonprofits can then contribute up to $5,000 per year. Employers can also contribute up to $2,500 per year per employee. President Trump believes there is no better investment than investing in our nation's children. If you are a parent who maximizes contributions to your child's Trump account, its projected value could reach nearly $1.1 million by the time your child turns 28 years old, based on average historical stock market returns. Safe to say, the Trump accounts will give a substantial head start to position the next generation for a brighter future. And with the stock market exploding under President Trump's pro-growth policies, there has never been a better time to sign up for an investment account like this. The Dow Jones just shattered 50,000 for the first time ever on Friday, and the S&P 500 and the NASDAQ continue smashing record after record. So with President Trump in charge, Americans' 401ks and retirement savings are booming once again, and these new Trump accounts for America's kids will boom too. So with that, once again, every parent should go to trumpaccounts.gov today, and I'm going to put it on my own personal to-do list to sign up for one as well. With that, I will take your questions. Karoline Downey from the National Review is here. Thank you for being here, and why don't you kick us off?
Thank you for having me. On the criticism that immigration enforcement has become arbitrary or not particularly prioritizing, Democrats have been circulating this statistic that only 14% of illegal aliens arrested under this administration are violent criminals. But we know that in deep blue cities with progressive district attorneys, it's common to plead down serious violent crimes into less serious offenses, which could be distorting those numbers. So given that backdrop, does the administration still stand by the messaging that you're targeting the worst of the worst? And does this prevailing narrative tell the whole story?
Before she answered that, I was about to say I haven't seen the she Caitlin Collins in a minute. I wonder if she'll make a clip. Of course, we got our California cutie boxing champion. We got our chick that can't wear the proper footwear. She's in the house. And of course, looks like your standard random press pool. And why do I get the feeling that really the answer is that the liberals who keep circulating that crap about criminals, 14%, why do I get the feeling that they're talking about crimes that they've committed here in the United States, not in their native homeland? Let's see what the answer is.
Well, thank you for bringing this up, Karoline. I've seen this CBS report floating around. There's a lot of liberal talking heads and pundits and Democrat elected politicians who think that this single story and these statistics and the way they are painted is somehow a shot at this administration. It is not. And let me correct the record. Number one, the Trump administration has been clear from day one that any illegal alien present in this country is subject to deportation. However, the priority, of course, is going after the convicted convicted criminals, the worst of the worst, the murderers, the pedophiles, the rapists in this country. Interestingly, in the CBS story, what the Democrat talking heads on television are not saying is this line. Nearly 60% of ICE arrestees over the past year had criminal charges or convictions. And among that population, the majority of the criminal charges or convictions are for nonviolent crimes. Oh, well, what are nonviolent crimes, you ask? This has coincided with what DHS has been saying all along, that approximately 70% of illegal aliens arrested under President Trump have pending criminal charges and or prior convictions. And these so-called nonviolent crimes, drug trafficking, distribution of child porn, burglary, fraud, DUI, embezzlement, solicitation of a minor, and human smuggling, just to name a few.
So they have charges pending. They just haven't seen their day in court. That's even worse. and after what happened, what was it, this week, where that black female judge, I gotta share that story with y'all. This dude, he kidnapped this black woman, drove her to a schoolyard, sexually assaulted her, went to her bank ATM, took money from her, took her back to the schoolyard, assaulted her again. He's in court. He's cussing out the judge. He's cussing out the prosecutors and whatnot. They recommended that they found him guilty. The jury found him guilty. They recommended 65 years. He cussing her out in the middle of sentencing. She's going, oh, he's a victim of society. I'm only going to give him 2 hours of community service picking up leaves in a forest somewhere. I mean, I'm exaggerating, but that's pretty much what she did. She gave him a slap on the wrist. I'm going to dig that up.
Just because a crime is not violent in nature doesn't mean that crime is victimless. And I can guarantee every single person who is out there on television right now pointing to these statistics that were taken out of context by CBS News would not want an illegal alien convicted of the distribution of child porn or fraud or DUI living in your community. So the Trump administration will continue our focus on deporting all illegal aliens present in our country with a focus on the worst of the worst criminals. Thank you for being here. Gabe.
Caroline, thank you. And thank you for the update on our colleague Savannah Guthrie's mother. Is there anything more you can share? You said the president was reviewing that surveillance footage. What was his initial reaction when seeing those disturbing images? And does he believe that that suspect acted alone?
I haven't talked to him specifically about the second point on whether the suspect acted alone or not. So I don't want to weigh in on the president's thinking on that. His initial reaction, of course, as all Americans, is just pure disgust. And again, it's heartbreaking to see now this footage really bring to life a story we've all been reading about. And again, we're just praying for the safety of Nancy Guthrie and that she will return home soon. And the president directed me to please encourage all Americans with any information to call the FBI. And we hope that this case will come to a positive resolution as soon as possible.
We, of course, have a lot to talk about in a completely separate topic. I was hoping you can clarify something that's come up over the last several days, again, regarding a separate topic, the Epstein files. According to newly released files, the president had a conversation with the Palm Beach police chief in the early 2000s, according to the police chief in 2019. The president had gone on record before, and he's told reporters that he said that he had no idea about Jeffrey Epstein's crimes. During this conversation with the police chief, however, he did say, according to this recounting of it, that thank goodness you're stopping him. He also called Karoline Maxwell evil. So my two questions are, did that conversation with the Palm Beach police chief happen? And can you explain the discrepancy?
What I will say is that the president has always remained consistent and that he kicked Jeffrey Epstein out of his club at Mar-a-Lago because, frankly, Jeffrey Epstein was a creep. And unlike many other people who are named in these files, President Trump cut off his relationship with Jeffrey Epstein and was honest and transparent about that for years and years. And so I think what the president has said all along has always remained true. And the release of more than 3 million documents related to Jeffrey Epstein and his heinous, disgusting crimes just shows the level of transparency that this president and administration has committed to in bringing these files to light.
But did he call the chief in 2006? Karoline, did he call the chief?
Look, it was a phone call that may or may not have happened in 2006. I don't know the answer to that question. What I'm telling you is that what President Trump has always said is that he kicked Jeffrey Epstein out of his Mar-a-Lago club because Jeffrey Epstein was a creep, and that remains true. And this call, if it did happen, corroborates exactly what President Trump has said from the beginning. And I'm sure many of you, when you read that alleged FBI report, probably thought to yourself, wow, this really cracks our narrative that we've been trying to push about this president for many years. So we're moving on from that. Reagan.
Thanks, Caroline. I want to ask you about the SAVE Act. NBC reported that there's some hesitation among House Republicans on adding absentee ballot restrictions into the SAVE Act. Can you explain what the hesitation is among House Republicans and also just provide a status of negotiations with Congress on the legislation?
Sure. I can't speak for House Republicans, Reagan. I can obviously speak for the president, who is quite possibly the strongest supporter of the Save America Act, which, as you know, would require proof of citizenship to register to vote. It would require proof of identification, a photo identification before casting a ballot. And it would also ensure that there are exceptions made. I think that's what you're alluding to with these conversations with House Republicans for reasonable requests, of course, for our military, for individuals who are disabled and cannot make it to the polls. Those are reasonable, common sense things that I believe House Republicans are discussing amongst themselves. But as for the president, he's been very clear. He wants House Republicans and Democrats too, if they were politically wise, to pass this legislation, for the Senate to pass it, to send it to the president's desk so it can be signed into law.
Follow-up, I'm wondering when the last time the president spoke to Leader Thune was and if he discussed using the standing filibuster to pass legislation.
She cute. She cute. She Arkansas cute. That's an Arkansas 10 right there, fellas. And how y'all doing? Oh, look, we got the California surfer dude, you know, with their haircut. All right, that's good. Why are you wearing this mask? Get your liberal ass out of my press. Get out of my press pool. Get out of my press pool wearing this garbage. What is wrong with you? Yeah, I feel as tired as his face. This is how I feel right now. Let me bag it up.
When the last time the president spoke to Leader Thune was and if he discussed using the standing filibuster to pass legislation.
The president has given his position on the standing filibuster. As for his most recent conversation with Leader Thune, frankly, I'm not sure. I do know they speak very frequently. The president's in constant communication with both Leader Thune and the House Speaker, Mike Johnson. Stephen, I see.
This is what killed me. You've got this is the thing with the SAVE Act, which requires voter ID. They went back to the old tactics of saying black people would be disenfranchised because, you know, we're so stupid, we're so ignorant, we're such a caveman race that it would exclude us from voting. You know, this is what liberals are saying, which is very racist of them to say. You know, it's 2026. If you don't have ID, then you probably shouldn't vote. You shouldn't be allowed. If you don't show up to the ballot box with your ID, then you shouldn't be allowed to vote. But it's so racist. Also, there are also liberals now are also saying that it would stop married white women from voting. Because if you didn't take on your husband's last name, then your ID is invalid. Like, what? If you don't sit, man, stop. But the truth of the matter is that it would stop illegals from voting. Flat out. Who shouldn't be voting. But I mean, that's the whole point of, well, one of the points of the Democrats opening up the borders and letting them flood millions of them into the country. Thank God millions of them are leaving, but you still got millions more to go. But I digress.
We switched up our seating chart. Your direct line of sight now. Congratulations.
Thank you to the Correspondents Association for recognizing the New York Post's reach. I've got two questions for you. One about the Guthrie case and then another about infrastructure. On the Guthrie case, does President Trump have a warning to the culprits here about what would happen to them, what federal consequences they would face if they do not release Nancy Guthrie unharmed?
I think anyone who was involved in this depraved
They'll
crime,
go to
this
prison. What the
abduction,
hell?
of course, we want to be seen held to the fullest extent of the law possible.
What does he think is going to happen? Do he think that they're going to go to IHOP for a pancake breakfast? Or that they're going to have to go to a Waffle House at 2 a.m. in a bad neighborhood and have to fight for their freedom? I mean, what a stupid question. What a stupid question.
And on infrastructure, can you explain why President Trump asked Chuck Schumer to help him rename Penn Station and Dulles Airport after himself? Why is he interested in having his name on those two buildings? And why are the Gateway Tunnel funds the proper point of pressure to get that done?
To your first question about the renaming, why not? It was something the president floated in his conversation with Chuck Schumer. As for the funding, the president has addressed that separately himself.
Caroline.
Danny.
Thanks. Today, the vice president's account posted and then deleted a tweet about the Armenian genocide. And then last week, President Trump's Truth Social account posted and then deleted a racist video about the Obamas. And the White House again blamed that on a staffer. I wanted to ask you, does the White House have a social media problem at the moment? Do you have an auto-posting problem that's leading to these mistakes?
Okay, because this was the elephant in the room. I wanted to address it yesterday, but I was busy doing my I had to make my commercials, my promo materials for our game night thingy. So look, if you watch the whole video, this whole Michelle and Barack Obama so-called racist thing, if you watch the whole video, they had members of Congress, former presidents, in there as animals. They're all in there as animals. You know how they do that little AI crap. I wasn't offended. Personally, I don't give a damn about Barack and Michael Obama. To hell with them. They did nothing for black people. They're part of black democratic society, which is nothing but scammers and scumbags and morons. It was all cute when he was elected and whatnot, but he did absolutely nothing for us in 8 years. And all his husband has done is bitch and whine and moan ever since Barack was elected. When was Barack elected? Over 20 years ago. All he's done is bitch and whine and moan with his gay brother on that podcast and lectures and all of this stuff. All he's done is besmirch Barack Obama's name, talking about how he's a single mother. And then you've got all this stuff coming out with Epstein and Barack Obama about how he liked the boys. He wasn't into the girls. He liked little boys. You know, those dudes with all them tattoos, them Island Boy twins, you know, you bring up them being on Epstein Island and, you know, they're so triggered by that. Probably because of their experiences there. I give a damn about Barack and Michael Obama. To hell with them. To hell with them. And y'all been calling Trump racist ever since 2015, 2016, because the media told you so. They wasn't calling them that when he was hanging out with Mike Tyson or Diddy, 50 Cent, all up in the movies and whatnot. All the rappers name dropping him in their videos and in their albums and everything. Suddenly, when he decided to run for president, and do what he's doing now, only with more fervor, was he suddenly a racist? As if Joe Biden, who dropped the hard R in Congress on several times, hanging out with Strom Thurmond and other hardcore racists and Klan members. Oh, he wasn't racist though. You don't vote for me, then you ain't black. Oh yeah, that wasn't a racist statement at all. Telling you better learn how to speak Spanish and get a job from Hispanics and everything. Oh yeah, that wasn't racist at all. The crime bill. Oh no, that wasn't racist at all. That was them cleaning up their mess after they dropped crack cocaine into black neighborhoods in order to fund their black market arms deals of terrorism. I mean, it was a twofold. We'll use these hard R's to help fund our black market arms deals, and at the same time wipe them out both socially and politically and judicially, legislative, executive, and judicial, and socially. Yeah, he had a hand in all of that. He had a hand in all of that. I don't give two craps about that freaking video.
No. As for the Armenian tweet that you're referring to, I would just refer you back to the White House's message that was issued on Armenian Remembrance Day, and there's been no change of policy at this time. Mary?
Thanks, Caroline. When the president goes to Beijing in the spring, does he have plans to try and advocate on behalf of Jimmy Lai, who was just sentenced to 20 years yesterday?
This is something I've heard the president advocate for both publicly and privately. I had the honor of being in that meeting with President Trump and President Xi in South Korea that took place, and this was brought up by the president himself. It is important to him, and he looks forward to visiting China in April. Go ahead.
Thanks, Caroline. So some Republican lawmakers from Nebraska have said they're worried that the Argentinian beef executive order will sideline some American ranchers. How will the Trump administration make sure prices go down for consumers without harming those ranchers?
Of course. Well, both things can happen at the same time. That's the president's belief. He wants to see prices come down. In fact, I just overheard him on the phone with Secretary Rollins. They were talking about something different, but he's always saying we got to make sure that prices continue to come down. As you know, Secretary Rollins successfully did that with respect to egg prices. Beef prices are coming down slightly, and the president wants to see that continue. He believes that a minor import to the country with cattle might be a short-term solution with respect to bringing down prices. But of course, protecting our American cattle and rancher industry is a priority for the president, and he's in touch with those stakeholders. We've had them here at the White House a few times in recent months to discuss this issue directly. John.
Thanks a lot, Caroline. Yesterday, the president on social media threatened to block the new Gordie Howe Bridge, which would connect Detroit to Canada. This is a bridge that was fully paid for by Canada. It used American labor to construct it. It used American steel to construct that bridge. The president in 2017 was actually in favor of this bridge, part of a joint statement that he put out when he met with the Canadian Prime Minister. Why has the president changed his mind as it relates to this bridge?
I think the president was very clear and direct in his truth, John, but just to reiterate, the fact that Canada will control what crosses the Gordie Howe Bridge and owns the land on both sides is unacceptable to the president. It's also unacceptable that more of this bridge isn't being built with more American-made materials, even more so than what President Barack Obama committed to with the Canadians at the time, at the start of the project. He also believes that the U.S. should own at least half of the bridge, have shared authority over what passes across it, and participate in the economic benefits generated by its use. This is just another example of President Trump putting America's interests first. And so he made that very clear in his call with Prime Minister Carney earlier today.
Sounds more so about border control more than anything. Just like how, the U.S.-Mexican border, we control our half of the border. We control our half of the border. That should be the same thing with Canada. Same thing with Canada. Side story, one of my former co-workers, he was up in Detroit. He said he was on the freeway. He said he wound up got off on the wrong exit and found himself in Canada. Just drove right across the border into Canada. He said he realized, he said as soon as he got across the border, he saw the signs, welcome to Canada, all this stuff. He's like, what the hell? He had to bust a U-turn and show his ID in order to get back to the U.S. He had to explain to Border Patrol there in Canada what happened. Like, so you let anybody come into your border, but they gotta show ID to get back across on the other side of the bridge? What sense does that make? That story is so funny. They said he said they had him pulled over to the side. They detained him for 45 minutes, searching his car and everything, making sure he wasn't carrying any contraband going across. Then they let him come back over. That was funny.
Phil.
Thank you, Caroline.
Sure.
DHS Secretary Kristi Noem just posted a photo of herself signing the last contract between Laredo, Del Rio, and Big Bend, Texas, among reports that construction had stalled. Is the president satisfied with the pace of construction?
I remember that.
The president wants to make sure that the full border wall is built as quickly as possible, of course. I know this is a priority for him dating back to 2016. And so absolutely, he wants to ensure that the border wall is built under budget and ahead of schedule is how President Trump.
Yeah, that wasn't true. Hold on. You said, look at recently when J.D. Vance attended Milan Olympics and the majority of the Europeans or something booed at J.D. Vance. No, that wasn't true. That was CNN and MS Now. They used fake footage. He didn't get booed. He actually got cheered. He actually got cheered. It was fake footage. Why did he say Caroline looked like Andre Duda? Who said that? Israel gotta go. Interpol. Interpol gonna get him locked. Get him. Yeah, he was cool though. I'm sorry. I don't understand what that guy's question was. Let me back it up.
Is the president satisfied with the pace of construction?
The president wants to make sure that the full border wall is built as quickly as possible, of course. I know this is a priority for him dating back to 2016. And so absolutely, he wants to ensure that the border wall is built under budget and ahead of schedule is how President Trump likes to view building projects, and that includes the border wall.
Satisfied with the pace of construction thus far?
I think the president is never satisfied. He always wants to ensure that things are moving along as quickly as possible. But I know Secretary Noem is on it, and she's doing a great job. You're welcome. Sure, go ahead.
Thank you.
Charlie.
On the Nancy Guthrie case, is the president satisfied with the federal and local investigations so far? And has there been any more contact from the White House or the president with the family?
I don't think anybody will be satisfied until this case is brought to a close and until Nancy Guthrie is returned home safely with her loved ones.
You know what? That whole Nancy Guthrie situation, it makes zero sense. It makes zero sense. You kidnapped this old woman. I guess you took her medication with her. Because without her heart medication, that woman won't make it past the week. Once that medicine clears her system, she'll be in trouble. She'll be in trouble. Anybody that takes any type of medication for something like blood pressure or something like that, mess around there and don't take it for after 2 days. See what happens to you. See what happens to you once the pills start clearing out of your system. You'll be in trouble. And then supposedly, he sent a note to TMZ, which makes no sense. I mean, when you kidnap somebody, you want to try to keep it as hush-hush as possible. Why would you send a note to TMZ? That didn't make any sense. I think there's a leak in the sheriff's department where somebody got paid and slipping the note to Harvey Levitt, that scumbag organization. Now they got video footage and drones or satellite footage of the guy. It looks like he acted alone. Everything is just very suspicious. It's very suspicious. Now they want what, $3 million in Bitcoin or whatever. It makes zero sense. It's so silly. It's like the wet bandits kidnapped this woman's mother.
Contacts? Has the president contacted the family since?
Not since that initial phone call. Sure, Tamara.
Thank you. The National Governors Association is removing a meeting with President Trump from his agenda because only Republicans were invited. Is the White House reconsidering inviting Democrats, or do you think Republicans are still going to show up? Like, where does that stand now?
No, look, I just spoke with the president about this. It is a dinner at the White House. It's the people's house. It's also the president's home. And so he can invite whomever he wants to dinners and events here at the White House. I believe Governor Moore was invited last year and he did not show up to the dinner last year. Nobody reported on it. But again, the president has the discretion to invite whomever he wants to the White House, and he welcomes all those who received an invitation to come. And if they don't want to, that's their loss.
And on Ghislaine Maxwell, is the president going to rule out a pardon for her in her testimony deposition yesterday?
Not.
The legal team seems to be making a case again for a pardon from the president.
Again, this is not something
She cute. Nice little 6 right there.
I've discussed with the president recently, because frankly, it's not a priority. He's focused on many of the issues that the American people are dealing with and providing solutions to those issues. So I haven't spoken with him recently. Last time we did speak about it, he said it's not something he's considering or thinking about. Go ahead, Bloomberg.
Thanks, Caroline. Secretary Lutnick today was testifying on the Hill, and he said that he had visited Epstein's Island in 2012 with his wife and children. And that's after he said that he had cut ties with Epstein. And Justice Department documents show that he was in contact with Epstein through 2018 over messages. So does the White House stand behind Secretary Lutnick right now? Or given what he has said today, has there been any shift in how the White House is viewing Secretary Lutnick's performance?
No, Secretary Lutnick remains a very important member of President Trump's team, and the president fully supports the secretary. I will just point out that there are a lot of wins in the news this week that people in this room have not asked about, because you continue to ask questions about the same subject. So let me point them out for you. Again, on Friday, the Dow shattered 50,000 for the first time ever. This week, the American Society of Plastic Surgeons came out in opposition to gender mutilation surgeries for children. They are the first major medical group to do so. A federal appeals court today, nobody asked about that, just upheld the Trump administration's policy of detaining illegal aliens, validating the strong measures that have driven illegal crossings to historic lows, and sent a crystal clear message that under President Trump, if you enter the country illegally, you will be detained and removed. The murder rate, again, not a single question about this, has plunged to a 125-year low as crime falls across the board, thanks to President Trump's crime crackdown. We also saw this week national median rents have fallen to a 4-year low following 6 consecutive monthly declines, and mortgage affordability has surged to a 4-year high. Home ownership is the core foundation principle of the American dream, and I will repeat that mortgage affordability this week surged to a 4-year high, but not a single of mention of that in this briefing room today. And again, this came out last Friday, but for an unprecedented 9th straight month, there were 0 illegal border crossings at the southern border. So we're going to get back to business. The president is very busy today, and you will see him all tomorrow at the event in the East Room touting his administration's energy policy. Thank you.
This whole Epstein situation and the people that are being named in it, I mean, I'll put it to you like this, and let's just be honest. What's up, thinking aloud? Look at her run from the Epstein stuff. Exactly. I'm not even gonna lie. Exactly. You say Maxwell should be in a maximum security prison, not a country club. Yeah, exactly. But that's what she got for her testimony. She got a Bernie Madoff cell. Yet I'd rather hear JD Vance got booed at the Milan Olympics, but looked like they were cheering the American Olympics. Yeah, he didn't get booed. That was just, this is why I don't watch liberal media. They make stuff up. He said Girl 6 looks like she has a kinky side. Oh, okay. Yeah, she do, don't she? Say not nearly enough done about rent, home prices. That's why when Charles's program yesterday, I was like, yo, I'm waiting another year. If I was to buy, I would give it another year. Once you get a new Fed chair and let the interest rates settle, because they're going to cut interest rates. The new Fed chair is going to cut interest rates. You're going to have those factories up and running probably by this summer. Give it another year. I'd say maybe August of 2027. That's when I would really start looking at it. All right. But as far as this whole Epstein thing goes, I mean, when it first came out and all this stuff, I got upset because I'm the type of person, if you tell me you're going to do something, I expect you to do it. Because if I say I'm going to do something, I expect myself to do it. And if I don't get it done and I don't have a valid reason as to why I didn't get it done, I get mad at myself. I get mad. I get furious with myself because I feel like I've lied to myself, and I hate that. And that's what was going on as far as I was concerned. Why do you think I don't? One of the reasons why I don't like Pam Bondi, out of all of the people in his administration, I don't like Pam Bondi, and Kash Patel is starting to he's starting to circle the doghouse with me too. Why the hell are YouTubers exposing fraud in Minnesota, Ohio, Georgia, California, Illinois, Maine, Portland? Why are YouTubers doing that? Why aren't you, as the FBI, why aren't you doing that? You know what's out there. Get your agents out there and start investigating. What are you doing? But then again, you got a lot of seditionists that are in government. But my whole thing is that, well, that's overseas stuff. My whole thing is the people that are on that list, 9 times out of 10, they're not going to go to prison. The Clintons aren't going to go to prison. You understand? Nobody's going to go to prison concerning this Epstein stuff. If anything, they'll be destroyed socially. But they're not going to prison. So pretty much, I mean, it's a social witch hunt. If anything, this Epstein stuff is a social witch hunt. But it will not be a criminal one. Say there's a Green Party in North Carolina that's stepping up to race for House of Representatives against Republicans and Democrats. Good. You need another party to do that. But let me show y'all this. Hold on. Let me show y'all what this judge did.
A man was found guilty last week of kidnapping, robbing, and sodomizing a woman.
A jury recommended a 65-year prison sentence, but the judge in the case cut that time in half. WDRB's Dalton Godby tells us it brought a spotlight of scrutiny, not just on this decision, but other orders in this same court.
Commonwealth of Kentucky versus Christopher Thompson.
Within seconds of Christopher Thompson's sentencing hearing.
Before we even get appearances, Mr. Thompson, I'm gonna need you to be respectful.
I ain't doing nothing.
He insulted Jefferson County Judge Tracy Davis.
Well, it's fine. Okay?
What?
It's fine.
Yeah.
Because here's the
Spit on y'all
thing.
wood.
At the end of the day, I'm the one with the pen.
I don't care.
I know you don't.
Yeah.
And it's a sad, sad scenario.
I ain't tripping.
So you just told me eat your and you called me a sucker twice.
The disruptions continued throughout the entire hearing. Thompson was convicted in December of robbery, kidnapping, sodomy, and sexual abuse. In 2023, the 24-year-old abducted a woman, robbed her, and sodomized her twice.
I don't have sympathy for nobody.
Come in here.
I don't have sympathy for you, the victim's family. I don't care.
It's fine. But if you...
During sentencing, the prosecutor asked the judge to uphold the jury's 65-year recommendation, but Judge Davis explained she would lower that sentence to just 30 years, as Thompson repeatedly interrupted.
I don't care. I don't care.
Unfortunately, he fell through the cracks and ended up before this court as an 18 or 19-year-old. This court does not believe that Mr. Thompson, if given the resources that he can get while incarcerated, is beyond being rehabilitated.
Sexual predatory offense.
Now, just days later, city leaders are outraged by the decision.
Where is the concern for the victim? Do we think she's going to get over this in 30 years?
Metro Council's Minority Caucus, which has vouched for more judicial transparency, pointed out Monday that Judge Davis has granted shock probation in dozens of cases since 2023.
My next step is to request for all of her shock probation cases to have the public learn about who she is releasing from the sentences that are given to them. That's the minimum I can do for the electorate of this community so that they can understand the decisions that she's making.
Dalton God.
They need to have her removed from the bench. Her and other judges like that, these liberal psychopaths, they need to have them removed. They need to have them removed from the bench. Yeah, she lowered it to 30, which means that he'll probably do about 15. You know what I'm saying? He'll probably do about 15. And then get out on parole. You got to get rid of these judges, man. You got to get rid of these judges who do this stupid stuff. It's just sickening. It's sickening. They still operate under that. They still operate under that Biden ideology where you get these people slaps on the wrists for violent offenders. Like, you know what? You know what you should do? Don't give him 30 years. Lock him up in her house. Put him on an ankle monitor and lock him up in her house with her children if she has any. You want to be that soft on crime? Here you go. You take care of them.
Democratic Maryland Governor Wes Moore says that he was uninvited to this year's National Governors Association dinner. Moore, who is the vice chair of the association, says that the move is another example of blatant disrespect and a snub to the spirit of bipartisan federal-state partnership.
It's not lost on me that I'm the only black governor in this country.
Oh boy!
And I find that to be particularly painful, considering the fact that the president is trying to exclude me from an organization that not only are my peers have asked me to help to lead, but then also a place where I know I belong in.
You weren't invited. You weren't invited. You run around here calling him a Nazi and a racist and a fascist and ISIS, the Gestapo. I wouldn't invite you to my house either. You're a scumbag with stolen valor. You protect illegals that are rapists, pedos, murderers, thieves, drug and human traffickers. I wouldn't invite you to my house either.
President Trump already announced the bipartisan meeting between the NGA and the White House would include only Republican governors, but has now blocked Moore and Colorado Governor Jared Polis from the event's dinner as well. We reached out to the White House, who said that many Democrats were invited to the dinner at the White House and others were not. These are White House events, and the president reserves the right to invite whomever he wants.
Thank you, whoever he wants. But he's trying to make it racial. Yeah, so I guess he racist against white people too.
Japan, the prime minister called a snap election, the quickest snap election in Japanese history. And boy, has she had a big victory today. She's going to have 2/3 majority.
You know why black people vote for them? Because they vote blue no matter who. They're slaves. They're slaves to the Democratic Party. They set up here. You got freed from slavery by the Republican Party. It was the Republican Party was the black party. And soon as the Republicans offered temporary relief for welfare, and Lyndon B. Johnson had to convince his Democratic Party, yes, give it to them. It's a new form of slavery. We'll throw these people back in slave quarters. We'll barely educate them. They'll be completely dependent on us. We'll separate the black males from the black females. Like J. Edgar Hoover said, we'll never bring rise to another black leader again. And the only way you can get strong black males is from a two-parent household, or you've got a strong-minded black father. And by a strong black man, I'm talking about one who is dedicated in, I guess you could call it, Christian values. Because if you look at it, Malcolm's father was what? He was in the church. MLK was in the church. When Malcolm's father died, he went off the rails. It wasn't until he was in prison that he found religion again, found his way again. MLK was brought up in the church, wound up becoming a minister or whatever. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad, other leaders of the black community back in the day before 1970. How many of them come from single mama raised homes? What do you have now? You got scamming bum Umar. And who else? I don't consider him a leader, but a lot of black people do. Who you got? Who you got? You have absolutely nobody. Absolutely nobody. It's every man for himself. The program worked. The golden era of black people was after the Civil War and before 1970. When we were forced to depend on each other, when we definitely had our own. Now we practically have nothing. Just a rogue group of individualists. But you know, we keep voting for our own demise. Anybody that goes against the narrative is shamed, is considered a coon. I'm sorry, the real coon is people who sit up here and vote for shucksters, con artists, criminals, people that want to keep you on that Democratic plantation. What is the seriously? What is the Republican plantation? Huh? What is the Republican plantation? We know what the Democratic plantation is. Democratic plantation is financial slavery and ignorance and illiteracy and criminality, high taxation. What is the Republican slave? What is the Republican slavery? What does that look like? When people say, "Oh, you selling out," what selling out to who exactly? The white man. Which white man is you selling out to? This is the same Westmore as vetoed Black American reparations. I don't know why they're going to vote for him in a heartbeat. I don't know either. Westmore looks like a scumbag. He looked like a scumbag. He looked like the type of black person that if y'all were in the store and he helped you steal some candy and y'all got caught, he would say it was all you. He would pin it all on you. Even though it was his idea, he would pin it on you. That's what Westmore looked like. Keep that in mind. Westmore is Jamaican. That's why he vetoed the Black American reparations. Ooh, freedom but less government is Republicans' plantation. I mean, a lot of black people that I see that are Republicans / conservatives, they appear to be doing very well in life, or at least comfortable in life. I don't see any homeless Republicans. I don't see any black Republicans that are on social services. I'm not saying they don't exist. It's just that I don't see it. And you're a conservative by nature. As a man, you're conservative by nature anyway. Are you bisexual? Does your girlfriend have another boyfriend? Does your wife have a boyfriend? Are you trying to trans your kids? Are you for illegals running around your neighborhoods committing crimes and whatnot? You ever notice that the poorest people are Democrats and are anti-government the way the Democrats want you to be? They want you to hate the system that's feeding you. I was sitting on Charles's stream last night. I'm like, look, you live here. If this capitalist system goes belly up to the Islamists, because that's who would take over, the Islamists and the communists, Chinese communists and the Russian influence. If they took over, with you as black people being at the very bottom of every metric in America, do you think that all of a sudden that you would be lifted up? They would give you crowns and scepters and mansions? Or would they go ahead and start eliminating you instantly because you're a useless eater? Like Mom Domney is doing to the homeless people in New York. Knowing damn well that he should have put those people in shelters. But that's one of the first things that socialist, communist, Islamists do once they take over power. They eliminate the useless eaters, and that would be the homeless, the poor. They eliminate you just by not caring about you. I mean, there's no humanity in them. He left those people out there to die on the streets of New York, knowing that cold front came in. He didn't do what he was supposed to do, which was to have his officers, whatnot, usher those people into shelters in order to keep them warm. He just left them out there to die. You got a guy who set up here, attacked an officer with a knife who got shot, and he's out there cozying up to the assailant of a police officer. You think you got a chance? You think you stand a chance if capitalism fails in America and they take over? You really think that? You say, yet they killed off their population and thinking they're going to revive this stuff. Yeah, exactly. The first ones to get murked are the poor. And then the rest of you are just slave labor. Slave labor. Funny how all of these democratic socialist leaders are multimillionaires. You say you found Trump MAGA Superstore. Where is it? Let me guess, they potato chips are 100% natural. Let me get back into this. Yeah, this is what happened in Japan. Japan's new leader sends shockwaves through Asia, where their stock prices and everything just start shooting through the roof. Let me get into it. I'm sorry.
Japan, the prime minister called a snap election, the quickest snap election in Japanese history. And boy, has she had a big victory today. She's going to have 2/3 majority in the upper house. President Trump endorsed her last week. She is a great ally, great relationship with the president. And when Japan is strong, the U.S. is strong in Asia.
And that's U.S. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent with me yesterday, praising Japanese Prime Minister Sanae Takaichi as a strong and trusted ally of the United States after her landslide victory in the parliamentary elections overnight. The win gives Takaichi a strong mandate to strengthen ties with the United States and boost Japan's economy. Joining me now is Tennessee Senator and former ambassador to Japan, Bill Haggerty. Senator, it's great to see you. Thanks so much for being here this morning.
Thank you, Maria. It's great to be with you this morning. My daughter's birthday, actually, this morning. A wonderful day all around.
Oh.
And by the way, that was a great interview with Secretary Bessent. That was a wonderful interview yesterday.
Thank you so much, Senator, and happy birthday to your daughter. I want to get your take on what this means in terms of Japan. You spent so much time aligning the two nations as ambassador. What is your reaction to the parliamentary elections win?
I think it's an incredible show of strength at a very important time. Look, President Trump is hugely popular in Japan. The fact that he endorsed Prime Minister Takaichi ahead of this election, I think, showed great unity. I think it gave her a huge lift. And now she has a supermajority in the lower house there in Japan. That's going to give her the momentum and the impetus to make needed economic reforms and, importantly, to step up defense expenditures to levels well beyond anything that we've seen in the past. It's going to strengthen our alliance and our relationship there with Japan and in the region. Who's not going to like this? Well, clearly the CCP, North Korea, Russia. But for our allies in the region, Japan is taking an even stronger posture. Their economy is moving. Look at their Nikkei. The Nikkei hit 57,000, a new record there as well. You think about what that says about the overall confidence in the market to come. I'm feeling very good about our relationship with Japan. And Prime Minister Takaichi is coming to America in March to visit with President Trump. I'm looking forward to supporting that effort as well.
That is fantastic. She has been called Margaret Thatcher like, and I guess this victory gives her a lot of mandates to do what she wants to do. What will she do? Do you think she boosts the defense of Japan as she continues to push back on communist China, doesn't she?
I think that's very clear, the direction that she's going to take it, Maria. The Japanese already made the commitment to eventually get to 2% of their GDP. That's a doubling from where they were. Prime Minister Abe always wanted to do this. But Japan has watched very closely China's aggression in the Taiwan Strait. Public sentiment has shifted. The Japanese public is clearly for a stronger defense right now. So I think what you'll see in Ambassador Glass, my successor there in Tokyo, is working very hard toward this end, is Japan's going to continue to step up their defense posture, and more important, their interoperability with the United States, with South Korea, with Australia, with our allies in the region, to see more joint exercises and more coordination that's going to increase our forces there and multiply our capabilities in something beyond what we've ever seen before in the region.
That is wonderful. And that is why the president gave her his complete and total endorsement on Truth Social before this election. Let me turn now to the business at hand in the U.S. Congress locked in a standoff over funding for the Department of Homeland Security, with money set to run out at the end of the week on Friday. I can't believe, Senator, that we're talking about another potential shutdown of the Department of Homeland Security. This would affect TSA and travel, FEMA. It would affect border security enforcement. I spoke with Pennsylvania Senator, your colleague, John Fetterman, yesterday, and he told me he is, in fact, expecting a shutdown of the department. Watch this. Do you expect the Department of Homeland Security to be forced to shut down on Friday? Are you going to vote to fund DHS?
No, I absolutely would expect that it's going to shut down. I know that we, the Democrats, we provided, I think it was 10 kinds of basic things. And then the Republican pushed back quickly, saying that that's like a Christmas wish list and that they're non-starters. I truly don't know what specifically are the Democrats' red lines, that it has to be. Certainly not going to get all 10. But now, if I had to say now, they would probably expect that there is going to be a shutdown because things are just drowned down to committed to do that.
Senator, what are your thoughts here?
Well, I think Senator Fetterman mentioned there are a lot of requests here. If we were to abide by all of them, we would basically turn the United States of America into a sanctuary nation, Maria. That's where they're headed with this. That's not going to happen. I think they picked the wrong vehicle here as well. The Department of Homeland Security performs very important roles. If you think about what they do with respect to the Coast Guard, interdicting drugs coming into our country. TSA, you mentioned this, transportation in America will come to a halt when TSA gets defunded. And in my home state of Tennessee, we've been hammered heavily by ice storms. FEMA is a critical aspect of addressing that. They want to defund it. The one thing this will not do is it will not defund ICE. because we already funded ICE in the big reconciliation bill that we did last year in 2025.
Right.
So again, they're tilting at windmills, trying to achieve things that the American public do not want to see. Will there be some movement on this? I think there will be. If you look at what's already in the bill, we've already taken steps to provide funding for body cameras. ICE wants to do this. There's several things that I think we can accomplish here. But if the politics of the matter seem to overwhelm the Democrats, they may not be listening to that. It's certainly not a practical approach to take, and I'd hate to see the government shut down on Friday, at least the Department of Homeland Security, because there's so many other aspects of America's well-being that the Democrats are willing to put at risk just to make this point.
Well, by the way, they're also willing to put it at risk right before the midterm elections, right? I mean, it's so laced with politics. It's so obvious that, your colleagues agreed to fund 90% of government, not the Department of Homeland Security, but the rest of government until September 30th, right before the midterm elections. So there's lots of chaos right before the midterms. I guess the point of that is.
I think that's the objective. I think Chuck Schumer thrives on chaos. That's what they're hoping for. They're not winning from a policy standpoint, Maria. I mean, look at what's happening in our economy. Look at the international wins President Trump is achieving. Their heads are exploding, and so all they can do is temper tantrums like this.
Excuse me.
All right. I'm glad this is next. So, Mondino had something to say. He held a press conference, and let's get into it, because do understand that his role in ICE, these are the bounty hunters.
I'll begin today's briefing, go through a few things, and then turn it over to my colleague, Mr. Marcos Charles. And at that time, after Mr. Charles is done, we'll take any questions that you may have. So operations continue unabated here in Minneapolis. Several illegal alien criminals taken off the streets yet again over the past 24 hours. Again, that is what we're here to do. And we're not going to be deterred in doing that. We are going to take these criminal illegal aliens off the street and make America a safer place, make Minneapolis a safer place. Again, that is why we're here. Let me detail a couple of illegal aliens we took off the streets over the past 24 hours that were walking our streets over those past 24 hours. Here's one, Mr. Carlos Gomez Acosta, charged with cocaine trafficking and a controlled substance violation. This is an interesting one because this individual was what we would term as a golf, which is a getaway across the border. This individual crossed the border and was a getaway. More than likely, over those past 4 years, when we had millions crossing the border unabated. This is what we get in our communities. What happens at the border does not stay at the border. And then we have Lin Lee, an illegal alien from Red China. This individual is charged with child neglect and endangerment. Let me say that again, child neglect and endangerment and prostitution. An illegal alien walking the streets of Minneapolis. Now, we just talked children yesterday a little bit. Let's talk a little more, since we've got an illegal alien we just took off the streets of Minneapolis that was someone engaged in child neglect and endangerment. Here in the U.S. Border Patrol, I will say unequivocally that we are experts in dealing with children. Let me say that again, experts in dealing with children. Not because we want to be, but because we have to be. Over those past 4 years, hundreds of thousands of children were trafficked across that border. Guess who they came into contact with? Sometimes who was the very first law enforcement agency or American citizen that they saw? U.S. Border Patrol, followed by our counterparts at Immigration and Customs Enforcement. We're definitely the experts at dealing with children, unfortunately. Hundreds of thousands under that last administration. Not to mention the 300,000 lost children, 300,000 plus lost children that were trafficked across that border. Now, when we've got the news media talking about children, I'd certainly love to hear more reporting on the 300,000 lost children. How about the 14 that we recovered at that pot farm a few months ago in Camarillo, California? The 14 lost children trafficked across the border that were found working illegally on a pot farm in California. Very little reporting from the Minneapolis news media here. I didn't really hear much from you guys. And then some of the more heinous crimes against children that are trafficked across the border that ICE and Border Patrol saw daily back when that border was out of control over those past 4 years. I'll detail one for you, folks, that's truly heinous. Border Patrol agents there in the El Centro sector encountered a young child, was approximately 3 years of age. The child appeared to be drugged, not with his parents, with strangers. Agents managed to wake the child up after doing what is known as a sternum rub, which is a technique to wake someone up that may be induced by drugs. As the child woke up, we understood the child's parents were not with him, and medical examination saw that this child had non-surgical sutures in his abdomen. Let me say that again. Non-surgical sutures in the child's abdomen. He was being trafficked across the border in that condition. That's not an isolated event with the U.S. Border Patrol or ICE. We saw that many, many times. Drug children coming across the border, and guess what? Other than a couple of news outlets, I believe News Nation and Fox reported, nobody else would. Nothing on a child with non-surgical sutures in his abdomen, and nobody knows why. Now, the 5-year-old yesterday, some of you had questions on the 5-year-old yesterday. That 5-year-old remains with his family. We say that again, remains with his family. We know that. That false media narrative that was pushed out yesterday it was false. Remains with his family. But let's talk about who doesn't remain with their family. And I think this is the most important thing that we're talking about with children. How about our victim of the day? A victim at the hands of illegal alien criminals, these same criminals that we are taking off the streets that you see on these screens behind us. This victim was Rachel Morin. She left behind 5 children. Let me say that again. She left behind 5 children after she was killed by an illegal alien from Central America. He decided to murder her and hide her body in a culvert. Oh, wait a second. That was after he raped her. She's separated permanently from her 5 children. Let me say that again. Separated permanently from her 5.
Yeah, he beat her head in with a rock. He smashed her head up against the ground, and then also up against the concrete tunnel. And then, I mean, she was pretty much, I guess you could say, dead then. And he assaulted pretty much her dead body, and then beat the front of her head in with a boulder, like a large rock. I mean, she was pretty much dead, but he went ahead and finished the job.
Children. Why isn't that reported on? Very little reporting in the local news media or the news media on those types of situations. Now, I would call this the DSP syndrome. That's a term that I made up. I'm not a medical doctor. I'm a Border Patrol agent. It's called the double standard phenomena. Say that again. The DSP is the double standard phenomena. We see this quite often, the DSP. American citizens that are arrested daily here in Minneapolis. Are they separated from their children and families? Absolutely, as they should be. Criminals face consequences. Criminals face consequences. But yet that double standard does not seem to apply to illegal aliens. Why is that? Perhaps someone could detail that for me, because I don't quite understand all the parameters involved in the DSP, the double standard phenomena. So as we continue this mission here in Minneapolis, we will continue to take these bad people, bad things off the streets, despite the DSP, the double standard phenomena, Despite the false narrative reporting by many news media outlets, we will continue unabated in our mission to ensure there are no more Rachel Morens separated from her 5 children. And I'll close by saying organizations, victims organizations, victims' rights organizations. What about the angel moms? That one's one that's never reported on. How many victims do you need before an organization like that pops up? It's not 1 or 2. I can guarantee you that. Look at MAD, Mothers Against Drunk Driving, from back in the 80s and 90s. That organization popped up because a lot of children were getting killed by drunk drivers. Well, what about the angel moms now? How many victims of illegal aliens that should not be here in the United States are causing family separation for American citizens that's not reported on by most news media outlets? How many does it take? I'd like to ask, excuse me, PBS or CNN or any of the other outlets, how many? How many does it take? I'd love that question. There's another phenomenon there. I would love that question answered. But the fact of the matter is we do have angel moms, a lot of them, unfortunately. It's very heartbreaking to meet them, although they're not reported on very much. Heartbreaking. But we're here to ensure there are no more angel moms. We don't want more angel moms, and that's why Marcos and I are here. U.S. Border Patrol, ICE, and those allied law enforcement teams, we're going to take again these criminal aliens off the streets that you see behind us and that I've shown you this morning. We're going to take them off the streets wholesale. It's on. We won't quit. Thank you for your time this morning. I'll introduce Mr. Marcos Charles. Marcos?
Good morning. Thanks, Commander Bovino. Thank you all for being here to get the real facts of what ICE federal partners are doing in the Twin Cities. For us, every day is about public safety, not politics. It's a shame to see politicians and activists spreading fear in their own communities by creating a false narrative about what we do and who we are and who we arrest. The media and political activists have tried to deceive the American public about ICE and our operations. Yet again, they have failed, but the truth matters, and I'm here to tell you the truth about what we do. This week, ICRO conducted targeted enforcement operation to arrest Adrian Alexander Conejo Arias, an illegal alien who was released back into the interior of the United States by the previous administration. When officers approached Conejo Arias, he and his child were in a vehicle. Arias fled from law enforcement on foot, abandoning his child in the middle of winter in a vehicle. One of our officers stayed behind with that child while other officers apprehended his father. After conducting the arrest, my officers stayed with the child. They cared for him, took him to get something to eat from a drive-through restaurant, and spent hours ensuring he was taken care of. Again, my officers did that, not his father. My officers did everything they could to reunite him with his family. Tragically, when we approached the door of his residence, the people inside refused to take him in and open the door. Let me say it again. They saw the young boy and they refused to open the door and take him back. This is the human side of the job that my officers do. They are family men and women. They have children of their own. They sacrifice everything for their families. I know for a fact that they were heartbroken to see the child's own family leave him behind. Fortunately, Conejo Arias eventually requested that his child stay with him. We do everything in our power not to separate families. So they took him back together to Minneapolis, here to the city, to the ICE facility for processing. And now they are being well cared for at a family residential center, pending their immigration proceedings. This is the real face of ICE, ERO, Border Patrol, and our allied partners. The media doesn't know our officers, we do. My officers do the right thing no matter how difficult or how long it takes throughout the day. Let me debunk a couple more lies. Conejo Arias was not walking to school with his child, and we did not target the child. Arias fled from law enforcement officers and left his child behind. Again, middle of winter in a car. We will enforce the law as it's written, but we will go above and beyond to reunite families because that is who we are. I also want to clarify the recent arrests of the ringleaders of the city's church riots. Federal law protects the freedom of religion and the right to worship without interference. What these agitators did was not a peaceful protest. They rioted at church services. They screamed and harassed children. They denied Minnesotans the ability to worship peacefully. Again, this was not a peaceful protest. You don't go in front of up to a child and yell at them. That is not a peaceful protest.
This is old.
Been a long.
Let's skip it. Sorry.
Senator Cruz.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, for holding this hearing. You know, I think it is amazing that Democrats never seem to focus on innocent victims who are shot and killed by illegal aliens that their policies have led into this country. They never seem to say names like Jocelyn Nungary in my hometown of Houston, who was raped and murdered, a young girl, by two Venezuelan gang members that Joe Biden had in custody and released. And they came to Houston and raped and murdered that beautiful little girl. They never seem to mention someone like Laken Riley, a nursing student, beautiful young woman murdered by an illegal alien the Democrats have released. They never seem to mention anyone like Kate Steinle, a beautiful young woman, 28 years old, in California, shot on a pier by an illegal alien who had been released over and over and over again. We have had Kate Steinle's father testify before this committee. He held her head in his hands as she died, and her last words were, "Help me, Daddy." And yet, for my Democrat colleagues, it seems there's no limit to how many Americans can be murdered by illegal aliens, and yet they simply don't care. They still support open borders and releasing murderers and releasing violent criminals. We're here today because of the Democrats' open border policies and the damage it's done to this country. But we're also here today because Minnesota's welfare system has been treated like an open ATM, and the taxpayers are the ones getting robbed. Ms. Gambler, GAO has reported that the federal government loses hundreds of billions of dollars each year to fraud and improper payments, much of it in public benefit programs. Is that correct?
Yes, GAO has reported both on estimates of federal government losses due to fraud, as well as estimates of improper payments government-wide.
You may recall the infamous Leering Center, whose blacked out windows and childless facilities have become emblematic of the public programs fraud currently plaguing Minnesota. Mr. O'Brien, when investigators encounter fraud this obvious, does it usually represent just a single isolated bad actor or the visible tip of a much larger scheme?
No, it's usually the visible tip of a much, much larger scheme. Fraud has a tendency not to occur in a vacuum.
In that instance, the fraud was so blatant that the owners of the business couldn't be bothered to spell the organization's name correctly on the public signage. Mr. O'Brien, does fraud of that magnitude typically persist because it's difficult to detect, or because oversight and enforcement break down?
It tends to persist because oversight and enforcement break down, and it tends to spread geometrically.
The Somali fraud problem in Minnesota is not confined to child care centers. Federal prosecutors in Minnesota expect that half of the more than $18 billion spent since 2018 on 14 different Minnesota welfare programs may prove to be fraudulent. To put that figure into perspective, the amount of fraud, if confirmed, may approach the entire GDP of the nation of Somalia. Mr. Hankinson, once funds are laundered and sent overseas to fragile or corrupt jurisdiction, is there any realistic prospect of recovering them?
Only if they come back and spend them.
In many respects, Minneapolis has become the Mogadishu of the Midwest. As the chairman of the Subcommittee on Federal Courts Oversight, Agency Action and Federal Rights, I'm proud to have held a hearing last week on the issue of fraud within the Minnesota Somali community and beyond. But the problem of fraud doesn't stop there, and neither does our inquiry. Our shared civic culture rests on something uniquely American, a respect for the public commons. It is clear, though, that though Minnesota opens its doors in the early 1990s to a massive number of Somali immigrants, that kindness was not reciprocated. Instead, it was exploited again and again and again, and that's simply unacceptable. Mr. Beer, can any welfare system long survive if large-scale fraud is excused and explained away rather than confronted?
No.
It would be entirely naive to assume that fraud of this magnitude simply stopped at public program frauds. I encourage you to examine the graph behind me. What do you notice about the usage of public programs among Minnesota's Somali immigrant population? 81% of Somali households in Minnesota receive some form of welfare, compared to 21% of non-Somali households. 54% of Somali households receive food stamps, compared to 7% of non-Somali households. 73% are enrolled in Medicaid, compared to 18% of non-Somali households. And 27% receive cash assistance, compared to 6% of non-Somali households. My question to the panel, and this is my final question, is importing vast numbers of people from an impoverished nation, putting the majority of them on public welfare for years and decades at a time, and then turning a blind eye while they steal billions of dollars from the taxpayers. Is that helping America or hurting America? Each of you has a chance to answer that. Ms. Gambler.
Yes, thank you, Senator. I would just say that your question really speaks to the work that GAO has done as it relates to leading practices for managing fraud risk. We've put out a framework for agencies that can help them better put in place processes and controls upfront to prevent fraud risks, and then also have policies and practices in place to really tailor their anti-fraud activities and anti-fraud approaches.
I believe in the melting pot. I'm an immigrant, but to melt, you need heat. You've got to put heat on people to make sure they obey laws and learn how we do business in the United States.
Is that helping or hurting America? It's a simple question.
I think if we ignore fraud, we're hurting America, of course.
Okay. Mr. Linderman?
That's not in the U.S. national interest, Senator, and we know that Somalia is a high fraud country. To bring people from that country who cannot integrate into our systems is not in the U.S. national interest.
Mr. O'Brien?
I believe it was Milton Friedman who said you can have a welfare state or you can have open borders, but you can't have both.
Mr. Beer?
We can build a wall around the welfare state, and that would be a lot better for taxpayers than building a wall and keeping out all these legal immigrants who can come and
Is this helping or hurting America?
Certainly, the welfare state is a problem. But
Mr. Schwartz?
It is not unusual for immigrant populations to have a high degree of assistance early in after their arrival, but we are already seeing statistics that the net benefit economically of Somali presence in the United States far outweighs the cost.
So your testimony is this massive welfare usage is helping America, and the fraud is helping America?
Not the fraud.
Hold on, bruh. What is the net positive of thievery by illegal immigrants or naturalized immigrants? How does that help America? I'll say it again. You're saying these are the people who will swear they're so much better than us FBAs. Right. They're better at stealing. I know that much. I'll say it again. For people who think that these illegals, how they help us financially. And I'll use it again in the term that people can understand. Let's say you got a place. You're doing okay. You're living check to check, but you could use the extra money You have an extra room, so you rent the room out. Let's say you rent it out to a family member. Say you rent it out to a family member, you know, since no one's illegal on stolen land and all that goofy stuff. So they're supposed to pay you $500 a month. That's what you agreed on. You know, drop me $500 a month, we good. So the first 2 months they pay the $500. Then by month 3, they only got $300. Oh man, I'm short. They cut my hours. And then they pull it on you again, another $300, then another $300. Meanwhile, you bugging them about, you know, your extra money because you let them slide that first month. And then of course you gave them another pass the second month. And all of a sudden now they no longer working. They at home all the time. They eating up your food. You didn't mind when they was eating up your food the first 2 months because, you know, you had the extra money to cover it. But now you don't have that extra money to cover it. You have no income. They burning up your lights. They burning up your gas and they eating up your food. And they running up your water bill. And contribute nothing. They gotta go. You talking to other family members about it. Or you getting calls and texts from other family members because you and this family member that's living up under your roof that's not paying off their money, they complaining to other family members about you, sweating them about money they owe you. So that your other family members call you up, you know, like Democrats, call you up talking mess. Oh yeah, that's family. You supposed to look out. Like, well, then you take care of them. Let them move in with you. No, they got 1,001 excuses of why they can't live with them. But they want you. They trying to govern your house. They trying to govern your house from their house. And they don't even contribute to your household. Do you understand? Same difference. All of a sudden you come home, it's 2-3 people up in your house that you don't know. They are quote unquote friends who are strangers to you. Who it is? They playing your PlayStation. They pulled it out of your room. Got it in the living room on the big screen. Chips and dips all over the place. Feed on your coffee table. Just mad disrespectful. And you got family members telling you that you wrong for wanting to put them out. No different. No different.
But we need to go after the fraud, which makes all inexplicable the Trump administration's decision to take actions that has decimated the U.S. Attorney's Office in Minnesota. I can't understand it. Can you understand
So
it?
simple question. Is this helping America or hurting
The
America?
Somali presence in the United States is helping America. That graph
For the
is
Minnesota
wild
taxpayers who had $9 billion
misrepresentation of their
stolen from them,
contribution.
sir, the Minnesota taxpayers who had $9 billion stolen from them, it has not helped them and the American taxpayers who are supporting a dependent
what are you talking
population
about?
who are here for one reason, and that is to vote Democrat and give money to elect Democrats. And if it robs the American taxpayers and endangers our security for our Democrat colleagues, that is a perfectly acceptable trade-off.
Speaking loudly does not make it true.
Your time has
It
expired.
just doesn't.
Your time has expired, Mr. Short.
Then what makes it true? The truth? What makes it true? The truth?
Let me just start with you, Senator Corn, if I could. I'm sure you're familiar with the recent anti-ICE protests in Minnesota. Let me just ask you this. From your vantage point in the state, are the majority of these protests spontaneous or more organized? What is your impression? You're there.
Sorry, Mr. Chair. They're highly organized and coordinated.
What evidence of that? What data? What signs have you observed that would indicate some level of coordination?
Well, we've seen in Minnesota, we've seen a wide variety of coordinated efforts. The agitation groups on the ground, there are a wide variety of them, some national, some very professional, in addition to local reports that state they've trained some 30,000 observers to get in and get in the middle of the protests.
And how would you describe the tactics that are used during these protests that you've observed? Peaceful, aggressive, inciting violence, trying to draw a reaction? I mean, again, you're on the ground, so you tell us.
Yeah, what we've seen is a whole host of doxing, highly coordinated efforts in doxing. We've seen instances of violence against federal agents. I think in 2 cases, we've had agents that one had their finger bitten off, and they've been pelted with frozen bottles, stones, and every other type of thing, in addition to directly interfering with legal law enforcement.
Let me ask you this. Have you seen any evidence that state officials are cooperating or coordinating with these efforts in any manner?
Yes, we've seen there are a variety of state officials, elected officials that represent the Minneapolis area that have gotten involved. Some are on the chat box, the chats out there. We've got one representative, very proud, Brad Tabke is a representative out there proud, making sure to help train and coordinate those efforts.
Mr. Rimmer, can I just turn to you? Senator Cornyn said that he has seen coordinated efforts within his state to disrupt ICE, including lookout signal chats, et cetera. Your organization specializes in following nonprofit funding and organizational networks. So based on your research, what organizations have been active on the ground in Minnesota? What can you tell us?
Yes, we have tracked over $60 million, according to the latest 990 disclosures, to approximately 14 groups, some of them national, others on the ground. Groups like the ACLU provide the legal defense, as well as facilitate the trainings for some of the tactics that Senator Cornyn just described. A group named Democracy Forward. Take Action Minnesota has gotten over $10 million from these large NGO networks, including the Neville Roy Singham Network, Indivisible, National Lawyers Guild, CTUL, the Council on American Islamic Relations Minnesota, CARE, Minnesota 350, Voices for Racial Justice, on and on. Like I said, over $60 million just according to the latest 990 disclosures.
$60 million, at least 14 different groups. That sounds like a pretty broad ecosystem here. Where's this money coming from? I mean, how is it flowing to these groups? Do you have any sense?
So we've built a database that contains hundreds of thousands of rows from grants from networks like the Soros Network, the Arabella Funding Network, as mentioned, the Neville Roy Singham Funding Network, many others, Tides, the Ford Foundation Network, the Rockefeller Funding Network, these massive NGOs that have billions of dollars to spend on all kinds of coordinated protest, or in this case, riot activity.
Give us a sense, if you could, of how this money flows to the ground level. You know, how does it get from these various donors and come down to ground level and start funding protests and other violent activity?
It comes in the form of a check, a 6-figure check. That'll come from whether it's the Open Society or the Tides groups, the Singham groups. They'll fund directly some of these on-the-ground organizations. And we've seen this happen time and again. It's not just in Minnesota.
So the money, I think we've got a chart perhaps. The money gets moved around. You just referenced a number of these groups. Arabella Advisors, the Tides groups. These are left-wing, dark money groups. So you've got this incredible, I mean, just look at the number of different entities on this one chart. All of this money moving through all of these different groups, many of them, again, non-disclosed donors, right? So we don't know exactly where the donors ultimately come from. Oftentimes the entity that gets the money doesn't have to report where they get the money. So it's washed through multiple times. And what you're saying is your research has found multiple different left-wing groups that are funding these protests on the ground in Minnesota. Is that a fair statement?
Yeah, that's absolutely fair. And the foreign money is probably the most concerning, whether it's from Neville Roy Singham or the Swiss billionaire Hans-Jörg Wyss.
Okay, talk about that. Talk about the foreign money, because you've mentioned Singham now a couple of times. There was a New York Post article not long ago talking about Neville Singham, who's based, I think, in China. Tell us what your research has uncovered about this foreign money making its way to American protests that often harm our law enforcement officers?
Sure. So Neville Roy Singham, he's an American citizen. He's an avowed Marxist, and he made nearly $1 billion roughly a decade ago selling his tech company. One of the funds that purchased the tech company had Chinese sovereign wealth money in it. And once he sold that company, again, got close to $1 billion, he now uses that money to fund a variety of protest, riot, anti-Semitic protests, the pro-Hamas things in New York. He funded the LA riots earlier this year. And so he lives in China, is a pro-CCP guy, and he's not done. He's also got very close ties to the communists in Cuba. He finances trips for American groups to go down to Cuba to receive Marxist revolutionary training. They come back here and then they operate on the ground. Famously, one of the groups in Salt Lake City, the Armed Queers of Salt Lake City, they went down to Cuba and got one of these trips. They're also very anti-ICE and working on these anti-ICE demonstrations.
So let me just make sure I understand. You're telling me that protest, quote unquote, protest activity we've seen in Los Angeles, we've seen in Minnesota, we've seen in other places that often turns violent, that some of this, maybe much of it, is funded by overseas money, including by this individual who has ties to the Chinese Communist Party. Have I got that right?
Yeah, that's right. You can see on on a lot of the placards, when you see all these placards roll out, Party for Socialism and Liberation, other groups like that, the Democratic Socialists of America. These are not organic, spontaneous. They got thousands and thousands of signs that get pointed out. Those are all within the Singham network.
Let me just finish with this. You mentioned another major source of foreign money. Tell us about that.
Yeah, Hans-Jörg Wyss, he's a Swiss billionaire. The New York Times reported this. He's one of the largest funders of the Arabella network of funds. He pledged to give $200 million to electing people in the United States. Many people have wondered how is a foreigner allowed to fund political operations. Thus far has escaped, hey, there's been some investigations, but not enough.
This is exactly the kind of thing that Alexander Hamilton all those years ago warned about when he warned about the danger of foreign influence and foreign adversaries in our elections. And we're seeing it play out in real time.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Hold on. This is also the danger of letting foreigners and naturalized citizens who are still foreigners to me. If you're naturalized, you're still a foreigner. The danger of letting them in your government. There's no way in hell a naturalized citizen should be able to hold a public office, especially a sitting member of Congress. That's ridiculous. You need to be third generation. Third generation, in other words, entrenched. You should be entrenched in American culture before you're able to be a member of Congress or a mayor or a governor. It's ridiculous.
Professor Schwartz, you're a professor at the University of Minnesota.
Yes.
Beautiful state, by the way. Wonderful state.
It's a wonderful state.
Some people in your beautiful state went to your state Medicaid department and said, we want some taxpayer money, some being state taxpayer money, some being federal taxpayer money, to feed the poor. And these entities that did that got the money. And then they stole it. But to help cover their tracks, well, before I go there, do you think those people should be prosecuted?
I think if there is reason to pursue prosecution, of course they should be prosecuted.
Okay. Do you think their ethnicity should matter?
The ethnicity of these people should not matter.
Okay.
Not a bit.
Now, some of these thieves also went to some restaurants and said, I need a fictitious invoice that you fed 100 people. You're not going to feed 100 people. You're just going to help me steal the money, and I'll kick back some of the money to you. Do you think those restaurant thieves should be prosecuted?
I think if they have committed crimes, they should be prosecuted.
Regardless of their ethnicity.
Regardless of their ethnicity.
Okay. You had some other people in Minnesota who had a different scam. They went to the Medicaid department and said, I need state taxpayer money and federal taxpayer money to provide services to autistic children. And they got the money. And then to maximize the fruits of their theft, they went to well, first, do you think those people who...
Same answer to the question.
Okay. Yeah. Now, in order to generate more money they could steal, they went to some families and said, do you have children? And some of the families said, yeah, we have kids. And they said, the thieves said, are your children autistic? And they said, well, no. And the thief said, well, would you agree to sign paperwork to say they're autistic if we kick back to you some of the money? Do you think those families should be prosecuted?
Same answer.
Okay. And you don't think their ethnicity should matter?
Not a bit.
Okay. All right, Mr. Is it Hankerson?
Hankinson, yes, sir.
I'm sorry, Mr. Hankinson. Did I understand you to say that you have studied immigrant communities throughout the United States in terms of fraud levels on social services?
Not specifically, no. I've done visa interviews in many countries, tens of thousands of them, and I've looked at reports about fraud levels.
I misunderstood you. I'm sorry about that. It's been a long day. Mr. Beyer, am I saying your name right?
It's Mr. Beer.
Mr. Beer.
Cut your phone off. What are you doing?
I like beer better.
Most people do.
Tell me that, I think I heard you say that some people, some folks who've come to our country and are trying to get status to stay, have applied to the Department of Health of DHS, and they've paid money, and DHS is doing nothing.
Oh, that's right. Yep, they're sitting on their applications, not processing them.
That's a pretty bold statement. How many people? I'm not saying you're wrong. I don't know. How many people we're talking about?
About half of the immigrant flow right now.
So
90 countries are affected by the State Department ban.
How many people is that?
Well, it's at least 300,000 abroad, and probably twice that when you consider the people already in the U.S.
That 300,000 folks have gone to DHS to seek some kind of permanent status or semi-permanent status to stay. At least 300,000, and they paid money to DHS, and DHS has done nothing. Is that
That's right? Yeah, they're sitting on their applications.
Well, who
or
at
they're just
DHS is
putting
doing
them in the
that?
trash?
Who at DHS is doing this?
Oh, it's Joseph Edlow. He's
Who
in
is
charge of it.
Edlow?
He came up with this policy to just.
Who is he?
He's the head of USCIS. Joseph Edlow is the head of USCIS. He came up with this
He's
policy
the DHS?
where he is just.
Slow down a minute, man. You've had too much coffee. Is he he's at DHS?
I'm just from New Jersey. So.
I understand. Great state too. Who does he report to?
Secretary Noem, of course.
Okay. Does Secretary Noem know whether this?
I don't know what Secretary Noem knows, but she's aware of the general tenor of this administration.
What's his name?
Joseph Edlow.
Mr. Edlow. Who's his boss?
Secretary Noem.
Oh.
How interesting.
Okay. And you can document all this?
Oh, absolutely. They put out a memorandum saying we're not processing these people. And Secretary Rubio is involved as well when it comes to the State
Would you send me that memo, please?
I will absolutely send that to you.
I went way over. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, John.
I appreciate that.
Senator Kennedy, I'm informed that USCIS is slowing adjudication because of the huge backlog and the lack of vetting of these migrants during the Biden administration is the reason that we've been given.
Yeah, I don't know. I just heard Mr. Beer, and I'm not saying he's right or wrong. Those pretty bold allegations that they're taking the money and they're not doing anything. And I just want to know if it's true or not.
Well, they're making sure that these people are vetted, so we don't end up with people like the National Guards woman here in Washington, D.C. that was killed by an African.
I don't have a problem with vetting. I just want to know whether what the witness is saying is true. No,
they're not adjudicating them. They're not
Senator Klobuchar.
Thank you very much, Chairman, Ranking Member Padilla. I believe that people who break the law have to go to jail, and people who steal taxpayer money have to go to.
Welcome back. Democrat leadership is threatening to block further funding for Homeland Security, which expires this upcoming Friday after they would agree to fund the DHS only for 2 weeks unless changes are made to the agencies enforcing the laws against illegal immigration. We just heard from Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent. Joining me now with reaction is Pennsylvania Democrat Senator John Fetterman, an integral member of the Senate Homeland Security Committee. Senator, it's great to have you this morning. Thank you so much for being here. Do you expect the Department of Homeland Security to be forced to shut down on Friday? Are you going to vote to fund DHS?
No, I absolutely would expect that it's going to shut down. I know that we, the Democrats, we provided, I think it was 10 kinds of basic things. And then the Republican pushed back quickly, saying that that's like a Christmas wish list and that they're non-starters. I truly don't know what specifically are the Democrats' red lines, that it has to be. Certainly not going to get all 10. But now, if I had to say now, they would probably expect that there is going to be a shutdown because things are just drowned down to committed to do that. And for me, it's always, as a Democrat, I've always been, just secure our border, deport all the criminals. And now I joined with Katie Britt to deliver the Lakin bill now as well too. So for me, I think those are very fundamental things that most Americans signed up for, and that's what I'm going to come forward. And I hope it doesn't shut down, because we could all agree to focus on those things, and that's where I'm going to be and where my vote's going to be.
Yeah, I mean, look, that's going to impact TSA, people's travel, certainly under the Department of Homeland Security. It's going to impact FEMA. What I don't understand, Senator, is why it is so difficult to get the SAVE Act into the portfolio and onto the floor. What's wrong with having an ID to vote? Chuck Schumer last week said if the SAVE Act even attempts to get to the Senate, it is dead on arrival. Why?
Yeah, well, multiple things. Now, I travel air 49 out of 52 years a week. So I'm going to see a lot of TSA people, and they're not going to get paid. And now I can't have an answer for them. Other one, it's just basic politics right now. I think every American deserves to be paid for the work that they've done. And I refuse. I don't want to jump back into that. I've been a Democrat that refused to shut our government down last year. I mean, that's real lives. And they're not wealthy if they're TSA folks. They're allowing us to fly safe here in America. And that's part of that conversation now, too. And now, me as a Democrat, I do not believe that it's unreasonable or to show ID just to vote. And I remind everybody that less than a year ago in Wisconsin, they added that to the Constitution by a 63%, passing, to put that in the Constitution that you have to show ID to vote. And they also elected a very, very liberal justice into their Supreme Court. So it's not a radical idea for regular Americans to show your ID to vote. And it's absolutely, those things are not Jim Crow or anything. Of course, that's part of an awful, awful legacy of our nation for so long ago. But where we are now, trying to find a way forward, just trying to call balls and strikes, seeing what's unreasonable, hopefully we don't have to do, and pay the TSA people and everyone, secure our border, and focus on deporting all of those kinds of criminals wherever they are. That's the guy that votes for that and supports that. as a Democrat, and I don't ever want to vote to shut our government down again.
Right. And you are very much where the people are. Look, that's what most people would like to see. Prioritize the criminals. Take the criminals out of the country who are here illegally but are also committing crime. But I mean, is there any other way to view the fact that Democrat leadership refused to have ID to vote? Is there any other way to read it other than they want illegals to vote? I mean, can you read it any other way?
Well, I mean, for me, the Save Act is not going to pass because of the filibuster, because they would need at least 7 or 8 Democratic votes to pass that. And now remember also, all the Democrats, all we wanted to eliminate the filibuster, except for it was Manchin and Sinema. They wanted to eliminate the filibuster, and now our party loves the filibuster. And then I do think think the filibuster is a good thing, and it does force us to work together overall.
Right. Sure, absolutely.
Yeah. Yep. But I will say this as a Democrat, I do not believe it's radical or extreme to just produce an ID to vote overall.
Exactly. All right, Senator, I got to get your take on Iran. This upcoming week, President Trump will be meeting with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. What do you want to see happen here? There are reports tens of thousands of citizens have been killed at the hands of the Khomeini regime.
Yeah, heartbreaking. Their region, just absolutely massacred thousands and thousands and thousands of their own young people. Now, as I was the only Democrat that actually cheered and pushed to strike their nuclear facilities last year, and they were absolutely successful. And we can't ever allow Iran to acquire a nuclear bomb. And now, just a couple days ago on my socials, I put out, I don't think, and I see any value in these kinds of negotiations. And Iran just declared saying, hey, absolutely, we're going to continue to enrich uranium. And that's their goal. They want to go back to try to acquire a nuclear weapon. And that's why I would be a no on the Iranian Powers Act, because the president they should have the freedom to have another surgical strike to make sure they do not acquire those kinds of nuclear weapons.
So
again.
Well said. Yeah, so well said. Senator, we are grateful that you are where you are. We thank you so much for joining us this morning, and I hope you'll come back soon, Senator. Thank you for your leadership.
Hey, everyone. I'm Emily Campagno. Catch me and my co-hosts Harris Faulkner and Kaylee McKinnon.
Yeah, Chuck's about to get replaced with AOC. He's about to get replaced with AOC, which is, unless she too winds up getting investigated. I mean, all they have to do really is just run a forensic audit on these people's accounts who have suddenly become millionaires by making an average of $200,000 a year in government, who are clearly dumb as a sack of rocks. Clearly dumb as a sack of rocks. And I think the funniest thing I heard was them talking about Ilhan Omar, how they're investigating her husband, but not her, for the fake winery scam. I'm like, that's her husband. They're conjoined at the hip. Just like Ayanna Pressley and her husband and his fraud. You're joined at the hip. If you're a government official and your spouse is running a multi-million-dollar fraud, you're just as liable. You're just as liable. This is your spouse. You don't have separate. You're not separate. You're equal. All right, fellas. I'll catch y'all tomorrow. Get some sleep. Y'all be safe out here. Peace out.
No, gentlemen, Mr. Butler's been up north, I hear. Don't you agree with us, Mr. Butler?
I think it's hard winning a war with words, gentlemen.
What do you mean, sir?
I mean, Mr. Hamilton, there's not a cannon factory in the whole South.
What difference does that make, sir, to a gentleman?
I'm afraid it's going to make a great deal of difference to a great many gentlemen, sir.
Are you hinting, Mr. Butler, that the Yankees can lick us?
No, I'm not hinting. I'm saying very plainly that the Yankees are better equipped than we. They've got factories, shipyards, coal mines, and a fleet to bottle up our harbors and starve us to death. All we've got is cotton and slaves and arrogance.
That's treachery!
A problem figuring out whether you're for me or Trump.
and you ain't black.
All right, bye. Thanks for the fun.
Get the fuck